I live in Marietta, Georgia. It's a suburb north of Atlanta. Our lives have been kind of flipped around. We have 3 kids who are all in school. My husband and I work full-time jobs, and we're used to going into the office, sending our kids to school every day. And none of that's happening right now. We're lucky enough that both of our jobs are having all of the employees work from home. So we are very fortunate that our jobs haven't been impacted financially. We're just now working at home instead of going in. Our kids were doing school virtually for many, many months. Our oldest one is now back face-to-face, but the younger 2 are still virtual just because we feel it's safer, even though we have the choice to send them in. It's very hard to have a kindergartner sit on a screen and learn through a computer all day, and try to handle that while both parents are working at home. So it's been crazy, but I know that millions of families are trying to juggle the same thing right now. You know, all of our travel plans have been, he's not going to see his family for who knows how long because they can't come here and we can't go over there. And it's just not what anyone expected.
How's the pandemic been?
I think it's been 2 things. Professionally, it's been odd. Being a counselor during the pandemic has been very strange. Counseling, by definition, is kind of it's a people thing. You meet people, you talk to people. I work with kids, and so you're supposed to be talking to kids and meeting with them, and you're the person who's there for their day-to-day struggles. I mean, there's nothing maybe more strange than what a high school counselor does in the day-to-day. I mean, we do everything from like get kids into college to talking about careers to suicide assessments to short-term counseling to all the social emotional stuff you would imagine a counselor does. And then to go from all of this kind of this vitality of a job to doing it 100% online overnight, we're all just, what happened? It's just really quiet. And kids are notoriously secretive. I mean, all of us are secretive, right? We all carry the burden of our secrets. Everybody does. There's not a person on the planet who doesn't have a secret. But when kids are forced into online school, when they were, their secrets went a little deep, and they were not only isolated from the people who might help them, but they're also isolated from each other. And parents, were worried about their own health and kept kids away from other kids, which all made sense. It all made perfect sense. Virology, yep, made sense. But, from a kid's perspective, what a terrible thing. And there have been, we've had several suicides, and just really hard things have happened over this time frame. And it is, it's definitely I would call it a lost year for sure, but I don't know. I'm not that pessimistic about it. I feel badly for, leaders of districts, school districts who say we have to catch up. There couldn't be a dumber idea. There's no catching up, right? We're not trying to catch kids up. I'm not sure who we're racing. If we're racing ourselves, okay, great. But, trying to catch kids up has got to be the most ludicrous idea ever. I mean, I really think we need to embrace where we're at. Okay, well, yeah, the year's gone. What did we learn? What did you learn, being away from people? Do you miss people? Do you love your friends? What did you miss about being around human beings? I'd rather talk about that than send a kid to summer school to catch up on his algebra. That just seems ridiculous to me. So I think that the adults maybe are handling this less well than the kids are in a lot of ways. I see a lot of kind of maundered thinking, as far as, what we should be doing to help children out. And this catching up idea is absolutely ridiculous. There's no catching up, and it's not the point. The point is, I would rather spend the summertime about what did we learn?
What has been difficult for you during the pandemic?
I think the hardest part is, even though I am introverted and I am shy about talking, I love my classes, but I always have those butterflies, at the beginning of every semester, but not seeing my students face to face has been difficult. We meet through virtual classrooms. It's not the same. And it's, that rapport, you don't get to know them as well. And I feel like that's been the hardest part for me, not to be able to just, because I'm an introvert. I always have my camera on, but I don't force them to turn their cameras on, especially since they've got kids in the background or husbands or what have you.
Dogs, cats.
House, yeah. Although I do tell them they need to show me their animals.
It's in the syllabus.
Here's my dog.
Yeah.
But that has been hard. And seeing them struggle, I think that's harder on me. Hearing how hard they're struggling and knowing that I can't do anything to
Right.
help them, except encourage them. There's a few students that, like I mentioned before, are kind of in the same situations. I can just tell through context, or they've outright told me,
Yeah.
this is what I'm dealing with at home. And some of them coming to college, to the campus, sitting in a classroom, talking face to face, being around other people, that was their outlet, that was their break, that was their escape. And now they're home with the people that that are trying to keep them from succeeding. And there's really nothing I can do with, except keep encouraging them. So that's been hard. I really worry about my students, which
Yeah.
I kind of feel like a mother hen, always trying to,
That's
are you
normal.
doing okay? What can I do
Yeah.
for you?
So last year, the pandemic hit in mid-March, and I was already finished with almost all of our content. And my goal was to finish before spring break, and this happened about 2 weeks before spring break. So I only had about 2 weeks worth of new material to cover with my students. And then the rest of that year, which was we had about 4 or 5 weeks, I think, after we came back from spring break, was just review. And so it was thrown on us all at once, and we didn't get much accomplished in that time. But it wasn't as frustrating because their grades were already set. We were 3/4 of the way through the school year. I didn't feel the pressure to cover a lot of stuff because we'd already done the meat of our stuff, and what we had left was fun stuff. It was probability, which is we get to do lots of experiments, and we didn't get to do that stuff, which is sad, but it's pretty easy compared to the other content. But this year has been totally different. I've seen my students for 15 days, and I've been on maternity leave for 6 weeks now, so they've gone back to school full time, but I haven't. So I don't know my students this year. We had at the mid-year point, I had about 50 kids failing math out of about 150, which is normally I have 3 or 4 that just won't do anything, that are failing. But this year, they would do nothing. You'd call them, and their parents will be like, "Well, they're telling me they're doing work," but
Yeah.
that it is just so frustrating. And especially with younger kids. I teach middle school, so I teach 7th grade. They're 12 and 13 years old. I always say a joke, it's my favorite grade, but people think I'm crazy because 7th graders are crazy.
Yeah.
They are. It is the first year really that they're starting to discover their peers and start figuring out who they are and having relationships and all this crazy stuff and all these hormones, and they're going through puberty and they're trying to fit in, and it's a really hard time for kids. And the only way that I'm able to teach those kids is through a connection with them. I go in there and act like a crazy person, and they respond to me because they know me. They get to know who I am, and they don't respond to me online, typing out something. They don't come to the live meetings. If they do, they don't respond to anything I say. They probably aren't listening to anything I say, and I know they aren't, because I would go over the answers in the live meeting and post a video of the live meeting, and they still get a 0 out of 5. So it's just been super frustrating on every front. And some teachers have tried to, on social media, have tried to be like, "Oh, I've learned so much, and I've got so much new stuff taking next year." And I'm going to be totally honest, I don't. I have not. I've been frustrated every day, and I don't feel like that I've been effective this year at all, and that's really hard for me. I don't like feeling inadequate, and I feel like more than anything this year it's just been. I'm glad I'm not going back. I'm taking the rest of the year off on maternity leave, and I'm glad. So it's really frustrating, and I'm excited already for next year to just start and have a normal year, and I think that it'll change. Make me a little more thankful just for normalcy. Not that I wasn't before, because I'm pretty upbeat most of the time. So I love my kids, I love my job, and I miss that because this year has not been that. If this is what teaching was, I would not continue this career if that's what I had to do for the rest of my career. Just no.